hard to be a chiropractor, right? Like you have to truly own and understand who you are. Like our early forefathers that got jailed or went to jail for our profession. Like I think that the number of practicing chiropractors that own chiropractic the way that those docs own chiropractic are very far and few between. As society at large, we've gotten soft, and it's no different in our profession. And so the softer we get, the weaker we become, the easier we are to convince that this thing is okay, even though it's completely outside of what we were originally aligned with and called to do, because they're unwilling to own their principles and put a stake in the ground and communicate with clarity and conviction and compassion about those principles to the lay public or to an MD, for whoever for that matter. They're unable to help people understand those principles. And so then they're struggling financially, and financial struggle is a real thing. And so people look for the easiest path to make a dime, even though it's not aligned with who they thought they originally were. They get out of alignment and congruence. And I solely think it's that, because people are unwilling to embrace the pain, the suck of being a principled chiropractor. Think if we truly had, whatever, in the States, there's 60-ish thousand chiropractors. If every practicing chiropractor in the United States was convicted about subluxation and literally put a stake in the ground and said, no, this is who we are and this is what we do. And that's what we were founded on, right? Like that original adjustment in 1895, that is what we do. I literally think it's because we've gotten soft and weak, and people need to feed their families. And so they look for the path of least resistance to make a dime. And if they align with somebody that's outside of what they originally thought, then they, convince themselves it's okay.
Well, welcome to the Vitalistic Voice. My name is Dr. Colin Elkin. Today, I'm really thrilled because I'm getting together with an old friend of mine, somebody who I've known for a long time and kind of lost connection with. And this is really cool to get back into it and hear what he's doing, because this gentleman that I have today is making some huge strides online, and he is really, even though he's out of practice now, advancing the profession in a huge way. I have the one and only Dr. Paul Reed with us today.
Oh man, hey, thanks for having me. And it has been, it was back to Body by God days, way back. I mean, you got to, whatever rendition it was, teach the world about chiropractic, then they transitioned to Body by God. And yeah, so we've known each other a hot minute, so which is great. So yeah.
I remember going to seminars with you, and where, you'd always know where Paul was. You'd look to the front row, and there was you and Dr. Todd sitting beside each other right in the front row, and I'll never
Right.
forget that. But man, I just remember you being so hungry for chiropractic, being so hungry to serve and hungry to grow. And you had this just drive, this fire in your belly ever since I've known you. So tell me, where does that come from?
Man, it's funny. I just did a podcast the other day and somebody asked me that exact same thing. So I'm obviously supposed to be helping somebody with that. Yeah, honestly, man, I think I heard a long, long time ago, serve something bigger than self. And so I'm always seeking ways to, for the Great Commission, essentially. Like I'm supposed to serve something greater than self. I was called to be a chiropractor. So I had my chiropractic experience when I was 13, lit my fire about wanting to become a chiropractor before I really even understood who they were, what they did, how you became one, or any of the stuff, right? And so yeah, so I think as a little dude, I was blessed, through my athletic career, college career, early into my coaching career, to have mentors that inspired me to always be, again, serving something bigger than self, and then just being able to find rhythms and patterns to keep that top of mind.
So
So
tell me about that. I love hearing stories about how people got inspired to become chiropractors. So you said you had a chiropractic experience at 13. What happened?
yeah, man, I was wrestling and was wrestling a big kid. So I was wrestling up against kids that were my size, even though they were, 4 to 8 years older than me. Hurt myself. So my dad took me to the chiropractor, and I literally, and again, you would, and not knowing what chiropractic was, but now know that adjustment connected man the physical to man the spiritual. Like I had no idea what it did, but I knew it when I got off the table. I'm like, man, I don't really know what that was, but it was super cool. And it changed me internally, right? My chemistry changed. I'm like, I want to do that when I grow up. And so I've been, yeah, since I was in eighth grade, I met my wife the next year as freshman in high school and said, I'm going to, I always talk about, what are you going to be when I grow up? I'm like, I'm going to be a chiropractor. When my sports career is done, however far that takes me, I'm going to go to chiropractic school. And yeah, here we are, that was in 19, oh gosh, that would have been like 84, 85. So a long time ago. So yeah, here
That's
we are.
awesome. Yeah. So, and you were a Pac-10 Division I athlete. Was that for wrestling as well?
It was for football, actually. Yeah. So I played college
Football.
football. Yeah. Yeah.
What position did you play?
That again, another long story and all things for good. But yeah, I got my scholarship was as a linebacker. And then I got over there my senior year of high school. I tore my ACL, and so I didn't actually even play. I only played in the first two games my senior year, and they still honored their scholarship to me. So got over there, was a step slower. Um, wasn't we were our defense was top in the country, top five every year that I was there. So I was not my skill set had didn't meet those standards, right? So I transitioned in the spring to defensive line, and then I came back in the fall of my second year, and we had three or four linemen that got suspended, and so I actually my last 4 years played center. So I showed up at like 230 pounds, left at 280 pounds. So I was
Wow, wow. So
I spent some LDs for the team.
I
So
knew we had something in common, Paul, because I played Canadian university football and I started as a linebacker and got moved to center because I was the only guy who could snap the ball long. And
there you go.
here I am, maybe at 225 pounds. I had to bulk up. So my training program was going to Mountain Pizza 3 days a week and having an 8 slice pizza. That was part of my training
Dude,
program. And getting up at
mine too, dude. I
250.
used to pizza pipeline in Pullman
Yeah.
like nights a week. I'd order it be 8 o'clock at night. I'm like, I need a large pizza. And they're like, for you? Yes.
Yes, yes. Man, this is going back. This is great. I love these memories. So
Right.
cool. So you're at university and then you decide, okay, after university, you're going to chiropractic school. Where did you go?
I went to a school of lac. I went to Western States actually. Um, and I was just, it was our backyard. I was actually registered at Palmer. And my wife, we got married in undergrad. So she got a job teaching at home and home is Western States is in our backyard. And I'm like, I'm not going to, spend 3.5, 4 years away. So I'm going to apply. And so, yeah, I went to Western States. I actually forfeited a semester of scholarship to start. So we played in the Alamo Bowl against Baylor. And that was like the last week of December, early January. And I came back and forfeited my scholarship my last semester and literally drove. We came back, got back to Pullman, got in the car. That was like on a Tuesday or Wednesday, drove home and started chiro school on a Monday in the winter. So yeah,
Awesome.
no break.
So
Yeah.
here's a big question for you. So this is really interesting because you've always, ever since I've known you, you've been a very principled guy. I mean, you're a very faith-driven guy. You
Yep.
understand the principle of chiropractic that there is a power inside this body that allows it to heal, and everything works through the nervous system, and subluxation is the major impedance in that. So how does somebody that goes to Western States, because Western States is not known for its philosophical foundation,
No,
how does
no.
somebody that goes to Western States understand that principle?
It was my mentor growing up, the doc that I had seen all through high school, all through my college career. Every time I was home, I'd go in and see him regularly. He was a Palmer grad. So he helped guide and keep me rooted in the principles. Then I had another, one of my better friends growing up that was a year ahead of me in school, but he short tracked. He just did his prerequisites and then went straight to chiropractic school. So he got out as I was entering chiropractic school, and he went to life. And so he was heavily philosophically based, and he met with me regularly, important to me. And I actually did screenings and stuff for him while I was going through school. So I surrounded myself with, we'll say right-minded folks, chiropractically principled folks. And so that, and then that same doc, a friend of mine at the time was hosting a monthly philosophy group where he brought in, Joe Felicia, Fred Schofield, like, Mertz way back then. So he was bringing in these, principled chiropractors to speak. And so I attended them, but I also helped organize them for the school. So I'd put flyers in all the students' boxes and different stuff, which got me in a little bit of hot water occasionally, but they got over it. So yeah.
So you start in practice and you build five, you said five clinics. So
Yeah.
how is that all going? Like how did that all work when you're running five clinics? I mean, you're a busy guy. Were you active in all clinics or did you have associates running the majority of those clinics?
Yep, yep. So we had our primary clinic, mothership, training center, whatever you call it. And so yeah, so 10 years in, I opened my second, and then year 12 through 15-ish, maybe 12 through 14, we did the other three. Yeah, so I had my main clinic was where I brought docs in, we coached them up, mentored them, and then we'd open up an office and plug them in and let them be the clinic director. And And yeah, that's how we did all within a probably all five were within a 20 to 25 mile radius. So around in our community.
Amazing.
Premise, the main premise with that was, um, I felt that we were, the highly principled, we were delivering chiropractic message. And so again, Western States is in our backyard and we have a lot of practitioners that were, hey, I'll see you 3, 6 times, come back when it hurts, or I can't help you, go over here to this person and do whatever. And so I felt like if I, became the loudest voice, that we could shift the community in regards to their understanding of and principles of chiropractic. And that was really the premise behind it. So
Awesome. Awesome. So, and now after 27 years of practice, no more clinics, now you're into coaching. So tell me how those principles of serving all those people in those years, training those docs, how does that translate into your coaching principles right now?
man, it's just easy. I mean, it just transitions right over to helping them. The biggest obstacle I see is docs, whether they work for me or docs I'm working with now, is that most of them are their own obstacle, right? It's helping them, get out of their own way, get out of their own head. I tell everybody I work with, like, if you've been in chiropractic for a hot minute, and I have docs that are 6 months in and docs that are 30 years in that I'm working with, but I tell them that I'm probably not going to teach you or show you anything that you don't already know. It's really helping you follow through and commit to doing the things that you need to do, and holding your line. Again, what we do as principled chiropractors is hard. You got to, develop what I, learned from Schofield, your rhino skin, where you got to be okay with rejection and being called names and told, all these different things that we experience throughout our career. And so it's a lot of what I'm doing is really helping with their mindset, getting them to move the needle, holding them accountable. And there's a few that I'm helping them refine systems. I think, that was one of the things that Heidi and I were really blessed with, is we made the time to develop. That's the only way I was able to have multiples, is we really solidified our systems and our process, and then trained our team around those. So, they knew who to report to, what to report, when to report, all that stuff, all the KPI stuff. Right. And that's the only way that I was able to have multiples. Otherwise, it'd just be a constant. I teach that, business is no different than chiropractic, right? We're about keeping the body in ease. When the body's subluxated, we're in dis-ease and stress and chaos. And a business is no different. Like, if it's unsubluxated and things are in order and communicating and processing, it's going to be at ease. But most docs don't operate with a system, and they're in a constant state of stress, constant state of fear, constant state of worry, which leads to burnout, fatigue, tired, broke, like all the negative things happen because they're not doing the hard work first. And so that's, I would say that's the other thing that I help them understand, whether it's one office or multiple offices, is you have to have a system and process of how things get done. And they're like, really, Paul? Like I'm like, yes, as little as like, who's getting the mail, who's opening the mail, who's making the deposits, like all the stuff. Like, they really don't process that, and it's random. And when it's random, that's when, crazy things like embezzlement happen and all sorts of stuff, because you don't have a system of checks and balances to keep you in order. So,
For
yeah.
sure. For sure. So let me ask you, so do you have an ideal client avatar? Do you just work with chiropractors, or do you expand that beyond the chiropractic profession?
I have helped a few folks outside of the profession. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously I'm a chiropractor, so I'm attracting chiropractors, but it's not set specifically for chiropractic. Business is business, principles are principles. So I have helped a few folks outside of the profession, but really perfect avatar, somebody just wants to grow and get better. That knows that there's space, that they're not reaching their fullest potential, and just really helping them look inside and see that, and then start putting the actions behind achieving it. So, yeah.
And this is incredible advice. That's great. And you're a perfect example of this because and I look at you saying, okay, well, you're still together now after 32 years of marriage with your high school sweetheart,
Yeah.
which is completely unusual. And I'm going to say very unusual for chiropractors in our profession, because you see these chiropractors that build these high volume, multi-million dollar practices, and it is so consuming. It really is consuming. So unless you really have good systems, as you say, in your life, things break down. And one of the things we see this often in our profession break down is relationships. So how have you been able, you and Heidi, been able to keep it together? You have a wonderful family. How have you been
Yeah.
able to keep it together for all these years?
Man, it's prioritizing each other, right? We were when you became married, you became one, and it's not disengaging from on that. And the relationship is more important than any business opportunity, and making sure that there's alignment and congruence in that. And, you know, I teach, one of the principles I teach my docs is to connect, communicate, and collaborate on the regular. Like if you're not connecting with your bride daily on some form or fashion, then your things are going to slip. And so making sure that you're connecting daily, communicating on what's going on in your life, because again, you're both going to be doing separate things, but coming together and communicating on how things went, where you're at, what you got going on, what's stress, what's great, you know, and then collaborating on who can support who with whatever needs to be done to help each other move the needle towards your desired state. So
Yeah, cool.
yeah.
That's amazing, and congratulations on that. So, and what a great role to be able to show the principles in your leadership role as a coach too. So let me ask you. So I know, you know, and I often see on your Facebook posts and your social media posts, you in the gym working out, and you are, you know, and you always have. Ever since I know you've been carved out of rock. So that, I mean, that is something that is obviously takes a lot of discipline. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about that, and how do you apply that discipline, first of all, to your daily routine, and where did that ever come from?
Yeah, you know, man, I think, you know, originally, I've been working out, again, an athlete my entire life. My dad introduced me to, I think I was 12 or 13 when he got me the Chuck Norris Total Gym right at home. I started on a Total Gym. And I think that was like sixth or seventh grade. And then they actually got me a gym membership heading into my eighth grade year, that I would ride my bike at least, I think it was at least 5 miles each way to the gym, throughout the summer. And early on, it was my way to acclimate to stress and anxiety and fear and all those things that we go through. It was my outlet, right? It's what I did to go, you know, to go make that stuff go away, or at least I thought. But as I matured, it really just became part of who I was. Just it worked into my DNA, and I found through personal growth and personal experiences that I'm a advocate, firm believer that, you know, your physical disciplines will help build all other disciplines in your life. Like if you can't be physically disciplined to work out and to eat clean, and am I perfect? No, absolutely not. Like I'll, you know, whatever, I'll have cheat days and have a piece of cake and all this stuff, right? But if you can't, more often than not, discipline yourself to move well, think well, eat well, and all those things, like it's going to trickle over and reflect into your finances, into your relationship, into your business, into your faith, into all other disciplines that we need to have. And so I, again, through trial and error, have learned. I started different, but now understand and know the last 15, 20 years that like really that physical discipline is helping me succeed in all other areas of life. And granted, there's outliers. Like we see people that don't take care of themselves, and they're obviously successful. You know, some have been successful financially, but then I think if you really looked at all of their foundations, that there's some gaps. And not, again, not that mine are perfect, but I think that it really just helps you succeed in all other areas of life. So
Awesome. That's
yeah.
beautiful advice. That's wonderful. So I'd like to dive in. I want to talk about, because I know one of your businesses is ChiroFest. So let's
Yeah.
talk about ChiroFest. How did that start, and
Yeah.
where's it going?
Yeah, ChiroFest, you know, it started, most folks are familiar with Billy D's Cal Jam. And so I attended year one, and I was hosting a philosophy group, and I went to his event. I had been doing my philosophy pretty regularly, and I was like, man, he's playing bigger. I need to step up. Again, back to that first adjustment, I didn't know what it meant, but I knew I was called to be a chiropractor and to support chiropractic. I didn't know anything what that would look like. Anyhow, so I attended his event. I'm like, I want to. We need to play bigger in the Northwest. I want to, you know, host something similar to this. So I called Bill. I'm like, hey man, let's do a Cal Jam North 6 months apart. It'll be a good unit. Like every 6 months, people are getting dipped on the West Coast. And he's like, nah, Paul, man, I'm figuring this out as I go myself. You go do you. And I'm like, all right, I'll go do me. And so then that's how ChiroFest was birthed, and we're coming up. I think this is year 16. And again, it's a selfish motive, right? Our tagline is honor the past, preserve the future. And it's so that my kids understand and know chiropractic the way that I know and understand chiropractic. You know, there's our profession's largest event was just this last weekend, and everybody I talked to that attended said there's maybe one speaker that talked about chiropractic. There was a lot of chiropractors, but only one spoke of chiropractic. And so really, it's to help. And like my son right now, he's just finishing up 10th quarter. He's going to start practice here. He'll graduate next March, and so he'll be a second gen chiro. And it's again, selfishly so that the principles of chiropractic are held true. I just got a text from a colleague that's in Montana. Montana's trying to pass drug rights. I don't know if you're aware of that. They squashed it.
Yes.
But they modified the bill. He just texted me yesterday. They modified the bill and are trying to reintroduce it to the Senate. And so it's crazy. I sit on our state board, and Washington's a highly principled state board. But I ironically sent the text message I got from my thing with the bill on it to our group chat and our text. And one of our board members, who's less principled, said, "Oh, those medications they're wanting access to seem pretty benign." I'm like, "What the like? Really? Any medication is benign?" I'm like, "Are you got to be kidding me?" So, but that's again why I host and have continued to put on ChiroFest, just so that we can keep the principles, and securing our future
Yeah. Yeah.
as principal.
And that was very public, obviously, that bill, what, HB 500, I think it was,
Yeah, yeah.
in Montana, and the whole profession was watching that and very happy that it got squashed. But, so let's just kind of dive into this a little bit, because so where do you think this mentality comes from? If we have a profession that's based and developed, founded on principles, and over the years, these principles have just been forgotten. And you see now the majority of chiropractic schools do not teach these principles. They don't teach the philosophy. And so that the schools that have preserved that philosophical foundation are getting fewer and fewer. I
Yeah.
give credit to those that are standing strong with that. But so where do you think this is all coming from?
Man, I think it's unwillingness to embrace the suck, right? Embrace the hard. Again, back to what I said, it's hard to be a chiropractor, right? Like you have to, excuse me, you have to truly own and understand who you are. Like our early forefathers that got jailed or went to jail for our profession. Like I think that the number of practicing chiropractors that own chiropractic the way that those docs own chiropractic are very far and few between. And I think today we as society at large, we've gotten soft, and it's no different in our profession. And so the softer we get, the weaker we become, the easier we are to convince that this thing is okay, even though it's completely outside of what we were originally aligned with and called to do. And because they're unwilling to own their principles and put a stake in the ground and communicate with clarity and conviction and compassion about those principles to the lay public or to an MD, for whoever for that matter, they can't help people. They're unable to help people understand those principles. And so then they're struggling financially, right? And financial struggle is a real thing. And so people look for the easiest path to make a dime, even though it's not aligned with who they thought they originally were. They get out of alignment and congruence. And I solely think it's that, because people are unwilling to embrace the pain, the suck of being a principal chiropractor. Think if we truly had, whatever, in the States, there's 60-ish thousand chiropractors. If every practicing chiropractor in the United States was convicted about subluxation and literally put a stake in the ground and said, no, this is who we are and this is what we do. And that's what we were founded on, right? Like that original adjustment in 1895, that is what we do. And if all 60,000 were given us even 80% of the most principled or 75% of the most principled chiropractors, like our profession would be in a completely different place. And so I literally think it's because we've gotten soft and weak, and people need to feed their families. And so they look for the path of least resistance to make a dime. And if they align with somebody that's outside of what they originally thought, then they, convince themselves it's okay. So,
Well, and this is the thing, and I give you huge credit because I know this is the whole basis behind ChiroFest, is to honor this principle and talk about this principle. But you see it, and anybody like yourself who has grown a big practice, a subluxation-based vitalistic practice, sees the light bulb in people's eyes,
yeah,
light up when they hear the principle for the first time. And often, and we used to get this all the time, why didn't somebody tell me about this before? Why didn't my medical doctor tell me? When they start to honor the fact that there is an innate intelligence within, people just light up, and we can
yeah.
remove the interference and allow that body to heal. And so let's dive into a little more about ChiroFest. Who's coming? When is it? And let's make sure that our viewers know exactly when this is, so we can make this as big as possible.
Yeah, man, it is September. I always host it well, based on hotel availability. It's this year it's September 19th and 20th. I really try and keep it every year. It's been as close as it can be to our anniversary. Just again, honoring the past, preserving the future. So yeah, so this year it's September 19th and 20th. Man, so again, I bring in um some of our folks that most folks know of in our profession, and I try and bring in some backyard bulldogs, we'll say, that are crushing it and just aren't quote unquote on the speaking circuit. So yeah, so that's, this year I have invites out to Heidi Havoc. I should have her secured here in the next few days. Dan Pompa's coming. Man, you're putting me on the spot. I'm gonna have to pull up my list. Fred Schofield's coming this year.
Nice.
Lacey Neville, a doc out of Oklahoma. Tracy Wilson, a doc down in Texas. Jen and Simon Florini from across the pond. Let me process who I got. Let me find my phone, brother. It's in my phone somewhere. Anyhow, so those are some of the few that are coming. I can't think of all the names.
So
But
where can viewers find out more about that and potentially sign up?
yeah, ChiroFest.org is the website. So yeah, so I think the .com works too. Another funny story on that. But yeah, ChiroFest.org is where they can see all the details, the hotel location, whatnot. And we're blessed. Like last year, I think we had always striving to reach more. Last year we had 657, I think, registrations for the event. We have 50 some vendors and average 20 to 22 speakers that come each year. So
Awesome.
yeah.
We'll make sure we link that in the chat down below.
Thanks, brother. Thank you. Yeah.
So let me ask you. So now, I mean, you're going strong. You're a busy guy. You got a growing family, and with your fitness and with your businesses, you're really going hard. But what's next for Dr. Paul?
Man, I think I'm still led to support men and chiropractors. So I have a separate men's coaching, program where I help them, get back in shape and work on their mindset and heart set. But yeah, so helping chiropractors really grow. Again, I feel like chiropractic blessed, my family and I beyond belief, and I want to help more chiropractors experience what they can experience when they align with their core values and attack their goals. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So what I'd like to do is obviously, to respect your time, I want to just kind of ask you just a few kind of quick questions here, just to sum things up, and you can take as little or as long to answer these as possible. So
I'm a
let's
yes
go
or no
way
kind of
back.
guy, man. Simple,
Yeah. All
simple,
right.
short.
Okay. So let's go way back. Tell us, what was the best advice you ever received, and who was it from?
Best advice I ever received, and who was it from? Man, I could list multiple things, but the one that just popped in the top of my head, there's two, and they're both high school coaches or mentors. Mr. Moen, remember sitting in biology class, he said, procrastination's assassination of life. Right? I'm like, oh, all right. I received that as a 17 or 16-year-old kid. And the other one was my wrestling coach. And I'll give you the 5 piece of the 6 piece to keep it clean. But he said, prior planning prevents poor performance. Right. And so really, I think that I teach that now. And that's been a huge influence of like, no, if you're not preparing, if you're not attacking life's going to attack you. And that's when you lose. So I would say those two things.
That is
Yeah.
amazing advice. And so let's turn it around. And so now let's say, what would be, and I really have a heart for students, students that are considering going to chiropractic school or becoming a chiropractor, students that are in chiropractic school, no matter what school they're in, to be able
Yeah.
to get out of school and be successful. The fact is, for our profession to succeed, we need to build successful people,
Yeah.
because successful
100%.
people will advance the profession. So
Amen. Yeah.
what advice will you have for a young person who's considering a career in chiropractic, or a student who really wants to get out and be successful?
Man, I would tell them to first get clarity on who you want to be and where you want to go. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about our profession. There's so many ways to help people heal, from above, down, inside out, and get clarity and certainty on who you want to become as a chiropractor. And I think that I had that as a young man entering my career as well. And I think that served me. Like I really, mind mapped, wrote out exactly what I wanted. And then just started attacking it. And so that clarity, like when vision's clear, the mechanism will appear, and then holding your line. Don't get like shiny objects come and go. And yes, they might benefit a practice member, but is it truly aligned with who you want to be and how you want to help people? And so really just getting clarity on where you want to go and telling the story. Do not hold back. Like, do not water down the principle. Do not water down your story. And really just when you can speak the truth with reckless abandonment, like all things happen for good. So yeah.
And then lastly, you are the pitcher that fills up other people's cups at this point, but who fills your cup?
Man, my quiet time with God, my wife, and then I try and surround myself with like-minded folks like you that keep us dipped. And that's the other thing I would encourage those young docs to do, is always surround yourself, get to events, surround yourself with like-minded people, because what we do, that's again why I host ChiroFest, right? Because what we do is hard, and your neighbor, your parents, whatever, other community members are not going to support you the way that you need to be supported, and making sure that you on the regular are surrounding yourself with folks that are encouraging and supporting and can give you some hugs and high fives and a shove or a pull when you need it. Right. So it's because we're all going to go through seasons and valleys, and having those folks in your corner, that can support you when you need it, is important. So yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Paul, I can't say how much I'm grateful for you to be with us today. Spend some time out of your day to pour into us. For the viewers, chirofest.org.
Yeah.
Chirofest. I'm having a hard time
You
saying
got
that,
it.
Paul.
No, you're good, buddy.
Chirofest.org. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Perfect.
Well,
Perfect.
really
Perfect.
appreciate your time.
Thanks, brother. Have an amazing day, bro.